So I started wrestling 12, 13 years ago now. I didn't really think that wrestling was like a possibility within England. I went to one of the holiday camps and there was an advertisement for a school in Liverpool. I went, cool, I'm going to have to move to Liverpool at some point to learn how to wrestle. Then in a magazine, there was a advertisement for a show that was happening in Wakefield, which was only about 30 minutes away from me. And they had an academy at the bottom of the page. So I got in touch and started from there. Not a great school by any means. They tried, and they had some really good trainers in at one point, but it wasn't set up to be like that. I realised that I needed to be better and be around better people. So I then travelled across to Hull, which was about an hour and a half journey, like every week. I then came back to Leeds again. I trained a lot with Marty Jones when he first started up, which is where a lot of my British wrestling background comes from. And then from there, took a bit of a break out of wrestling, started to come back in again, and then we had the pandemic. From there, me and Nathan Black started up PPW when a couple of schools in Yorkshire closed down, and then I've been training since that point, really. That's a brief summary of Liam Slater there. So I met Red a number of years ago, probably it'd be 6, 7 years ago, when I was training with Marty and a group of the Italian wrestlers came over as well. But that was, I think it was like a 2-day training seminar, and I might have been there one day and there was about 20 or so people and stuff like that. So there was a lot like in and around that space. And then it was actually through Nathan and through Nico where Nathan met Nico at a Rise show, and then they got in touch with each other. Nathan came out here, he wrestled Red. Red came over to PPW, and then that's really where the relationship with me and Red started back up again, from being an acquaintance at a training session to then going, hey, let's talk about this and ideas and stuff, and chatting on a pretty regular basis. The importance of having connection with like people across Europe is incredibly important, more so than I ever realised. I'll be the first one to hold my hands up and say that I've never been great at connecting with people. It's just not something that's in my personality. I'm a fairly like introverted person. So that outward motion of going, hi, I would like to work for you, and so on and so forth, has just never been what I'm about particularly. But the more that we have developed the relationships with European companies like Megastars, like, has been a massive benefit to what we're doing. It's been great interacting with Europe. I think there's such a vibrant scene that's out here with a lot of people that care deeply about pro wrestling. And it helps us develop it into more of a global feel out of it. Which again, a lot of credit there, I'll say, goes towards Nathan and like his contact points that he's made. But it's an incredibly important part of what we do, is helping Europe in whatever way that we can. So our PPW's relationship with Red is a very good one, in that whenever he comes over to the UK, we usually have him doing a session takeover. It's funny, like, Red will often say that he's never been like formally trained, but he's one of the smoothest and best wrestlers that I know. And I think a huge amount of credit goes to him in terms of his dedication to the craft and what he does. So it's a huge benefit for us for him to come over, and likewise trying to help people like we had Lello come over and have his first match at PPW, because we have what we call an in-house show, which is the stage between a training session and a full wrestling show out in front of a paid audience. That then gives you that little booster that you can go, cool, I can do this. Allows like the Megastars team to see him wrestling, that then allows him to team with Nico and stuff like that, or at least push that a little bit further forward. So having Red as that link there across the board is great. For me, it's been great in terms of just having another mind that's in and around, and again, he'll constantly put himself down, but actually he's incredibly clever when it comes to wrestling, in all sorts of aspects of it. So just to be able to bounce ideas back and forth with him. We were recently in Germany for WXW and the Weekender for the 16 karat gold tournament. It was wonderful being out there with him for 3 days and just watching wrestling and talking ideas and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, for me, it's been a great benefit. Yeah, I'm massively looking forward to the match tonight. We just wrestled randomly when Red was over, just to train. And it felt great, it moved great, and we were just in there, just moving around. So to get a chance to do that in front of an audience is great. We then follow this up with wrestling in Newcastle next weekend. Slightly different circumstances, but it'll be good to get this one in to then get ready for that one. Yeah, and it's just I'm just looking forward to it. It'll be fun. Again, when you bounce ideas off of somebody and it all comes together quite nicely, you can feel the pacing and the timing of it. You can sort of start to feel like, okay, cool, this will be fun. So for me, wrestling is my art form. It's how I express myself. It's how I communicate feeling. It's how it allows me to express feeling. I'm not a massively emotional person outwardly, much to the chagrin of my wife, who's desperate for me to react like anything else when I react to wrestling. But there's just something about it that I just think it is so pure of an art form of two people that are putting their bodies on the line to create a story and a narrative. I don't think there's anything else like it. I also think it holds a massive mirror up to society, and that there's such a larger play of wrestling and what wrestling is and what it means to society, and the things and the reasons why certain parts of wrestling get over often mirror what's happening in society right now. And I just find that such an interesting dynamic that, again, I don't think there's anything else like that in the world. Even with music, I don't think it mirrors up like pro wrestling mirrors up with society. It's, you could go on a real deep rabbit hole of it. So my goal personally really is to be the best coach that I can be, and help people achieve what they want to achieve. Probably unselfishly, but selfishly, in a sense of I know what my capacity is within wrestling, probably to a self-deprecating point where I probably limit what I can do, but the circumstances in and around it. But for me, the ability to help people achieve stuff and go off and away, whether that be a Leon Slater who's gone and signed with TNA, or just somebody that's coming up and making a debut somewhere, they all hold weight with me, and I feel massively proud of being able to help people that way. So that's where I see myself going, is just continuing to develop and hopefully getting more people up to where they want to go, which then in the process is the aim for PPW out of it. For Nathan, ideally we'd like to see Nathan getting signed somewhere and going out and fulfilling what he wants to do. He wants to be a TV star, and I think that's absolutely possible and it's doable. It's getting him in the right places. And from the start point of PPW, one of the things I mentioned to him was a right direction out of that would be to go to Europe. And as it happens, he went to Europe and it has massively helped him. Almost like I know what I'm talking about sometimes. So that's the aim for Nathan. For Red, I would love to see him in a position where he's utilised to the best of his ability. I think he's an extremely versatile wrestler that can work in multiple different ranges in the card and stuff like that. I would love for an NXT Europe to be a thing, or say a WXW where they're running on a more consistent basis, or maybe even if he's heading back to Japan again and stuff like that. Really, I would just like Red to be really fulfilled in what he does, because he deserves it, because he's a top guy, and he's very giving, and he's always asking questions about other people and stuff like that, which is really nice. And I would like for him to be as fulfilled in pro wrestling as possible. So somewhere that gives him a permanent role, I think would be a massive boost for him. For Megastars, it's basically a case that I'd love to see them selling out the shows as much as possible, to continue to develop, to expand out into the regions, to have the return of the investment that they put into it, because it's such a good team of people that are all happy to be here, and they're all engaged with it, and like they all love wrestling, and I want to see that continue to grow and to prosper for them, and for it to be a company that is recognised wider within Europe. I feel like it's sort of there at the moment, just needs some more build into it, and I think it's very doable. I think that almost rides alongside Red Scorpion.